since Canada did a oopsie and had a literal Nazi, a Waffen SS Nazi, a Nazi, okay, which, by the way, my hatred for Nazis have never been higher. I've always been obviously an anti-Nazi guy, but since watching Band of Brothers, oh my God, dude, my patriotism and anti-Nazi opinions have flourished, okay? My God, dude. Anyway, as my fervor and anti-Nazi perspective becomes more solidified than ever before, Politico has some different opinions. Politico wrote an article saying, fighting against the USSR didn't necessarily make you a Nazi. Canada's Hunka scandal is a demonstration of how, when history is complicated, it can be a gift to propagandists who exploit the appeal of simplicity, which is a psychotic thing to say. What the fuck is going on? This is an article by Keir Giles, voiced by artificial intelligence. Fighting against the USSR didn't necessarily make you a Nazi. Canada's Hunka scandal is a demonstration of how, when history is complicated, it can be a gift to propagandists who exploit the appeal of simplicity. Everybody knows that a lie can make it halfway around the world before the truth has even got its boots on. And the ongoing turmoil over Canada's parliament, recognizing former SS trooper Yaroslav Hunka, highlights one of the most important reasons why. Something that's untrue but simple is far more persuasive than a complicated. Dude, it's done. I don't even want to read the rest of it. It's over. You are saying that a guy who volunteered to be a part of the foreigner brigade for the Waffen SS actually had a complicated relationship. You know what this is? This is you guys put women in video games, okay? And you went too far by putting women in video games. So now I'm a fucking Nazi. Except, guess what? He literally was a Nazi. Literally the closest you can get to being a Nazi without being a part of the party, okay? He volunteered. I don't know how to fucking... What? I don't know how to fucking go about this. I don't know how to, hello? This motherfucker looked at the Holocaust and said it was the best years of my life, dude. God damn. I'm no Stalinist or anything, but fucking holy shit, dude. Social fascism is so real. What the hell? Chill out, man. It's what are we doing here? What the fuck's going on? You're just actually, unironically, not even cutting a liberal at this point and a fascist is bleeding. You're just tickling a liberal and a fascist is laughing. How? Why is this written in a publication? This is, what is going on? This is Stormfront shit. In the case of Hunka, the mass outrage stems from his enlistment of one of the foreign legions of the Waffen SS. Oh my God, fighting Soviet forces on Germany's Eastern Front. And it's a demonstration of how, when history is complicated, it can be a gift to propagandists who exploit the appeal of simplicity. The history is complicated because fighting against the USSR at the time didn't necessarily make you a Nazi. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. During World War II, if you fought against the USSR, you aligned with the Nazis and you were literally a Nazi. And not only that, but even if you were to say the entire nationalist movement in Ukraine wasn't aligned with Nazis, even though, that would still be somewhat historically revisionist, unless you're literally talking about some edge case that I don't even fucking know about. This guy doesn't even fit that bill, okay? Before the Finnish chirp and chime in, okay? I know, you guys denazified your fucking Air Force 5 years ago? Except this is even worse than that, okay? This is worse than Finnish people being we had a complicated history with that, blah, blah, blah. We're talking straight up, joining the Waffen SS. As far as edge cases go, I guess the Japanese Imperials did also fight the USSR, but as you said, not this guy. Yeah, exactly. They were bad. Hello? What do you think? I'm a fucking fan of Imperial Japan? What? Bro. The Japanese were the Nazis on the other side of the fucking planet. If anything, they got away with so much shit, okay? Shouts out to the Americans who allowed them to do that. They were fucking insanely evil, you know what I mean? Insanely evil. Bro, the fucking Manchurian experiments, dude? What the fuck? God damn, those motherfuckers were psychotic monsters, okay? And here comes at the beginning of the World War II, USSR started siding with the Nazis. Really interesting. Appeasement also occurred with the West as well. I hope you know that. And it doesn't fucking matter. This is literally the same energy as, I guess you didn't know that the Democrats were the ones who are on the side of the Confederates. It's did nothing else happen, dude? In between then? That's really interesting. What a fucking awesome fun little moment of history. Let's not examine anything else that happened after that. Let's not examine anything else that happened. This is the new liberal fucking counter, which is so stupid. Just like, you don't have to be ahistorical about it. You don't have to come across like a dumbass hog just so you can do the fuck the USSR thing. You could just say you don't like the USSR's existence, you don't like what Stalin did or whatever the fuck, and just keep it at that. You don't have to also literally turn around and engage in ahistorical nonsense as though the fucking World War II didn't happen. You know what I mean? Are you a fucking idiot? Wow, I can't believe the USSR engaged in a non-aggression pact, and just like the West did, okay? Also, why are people still doubling down on this? Everyone involved in bringing that old guy to Parliament apologized already almost immediately after it happened. His dead discourse in Canada. Because I think there is a more important revisionism. There's a secondary reason for why people are still arguing this point, just like the reason why this guy is fucking hitting this take. Poland took a piece of Czechoslovakia in the Munich Agreement with the Nazis, so maybe people should stop bringing up Molotov-Ribbentrop. It's just, Molotov-Ribbentrop is such an idiotic fucking take because the more famous thing that happened after that is what is important. Just like the West also engaged in appeasement. Why did Stalin immediately start manufacturing weapons after the Molotov Pact? He was quite literally buying time for the inevitable war. What a fucking joke of an argument. I don't even care about that. You don't even need to make that. You don't even need to talk about every single Western country that made a pact before the USSR did with Nazi Germany, all this shit. None of it matters. You want to know why? Because the simplest explanation is always the best one, which is that the USSR fought the fucking Nazis and won. That's it. We're going to get back to the revisionist article right now in a second, but first you convince people the USSR was an equivalent evil to the Nazis, then you can convince them that it was the greater evil, then that the Nazis were a necessary evil, then finally that the Nazis were good. Everyone who falls into this pipeline works to pull others to the level they're on while themselves being pulled along to the next by the more advanced fascists. This is by design. And I do think that is what we are engaging in right now. This is why the never forget narrative is so fucking important. There is a reason for why we must not forget the Holocaust so that we don't repeat those same mistakes, right? Even though one might say that there are active apartheid states currently engaging in the act of genocide, like in Israel, right? Or there might be, not full ethnic cleansing, but some level of ethnic cleansing and slavery occurring in the United States of America still, and many other places around the world. The idea that this is like, the double genocide theory, I think was originally very insidious, very cynical, oftentimes fascist-backed propaganda that has now become the norm, like actively. And this also plays along with it. Secretary Anthony Blinken, 82 years ago, the Nazis murdered 34,000 Jews at Babin Yar. Soviets buried this history, which today Putin's government manipulates to provide cover for Russia's abuses in Ukraine. The U.S. is committed to justice for Holocaust survivors and accountability for atrocities, which is, again, insane. Soviet prisoners of war were among the people who were massacred at Babin Yar. Just like another aspect of anti-Soviet revisionism that is ahistorical and literally Holocaust denial almost, or not almost, Holocaust denial, Holocaust revisionism, is the completely forgotten side of like the internal struggle in Germany leading up to the Nazi party seizing power and what they did. Like the first people that were in concentration camps were literally communists. People forget that, or rather they never learned that. 82 years ago, Nazis murdered 34,000 Jews at Babin Yar. They're rewriting history and they're going to get away with it. No matter how much we can call them out, the propaganda machine will keep churning until a critical mass of Americans believe this nonsense. I don't even know what to say anymore. Yeah, I mean, I've covered the change in public opinion in France specifically about who shouldered the greatest burden in World War II that led to the liberation of Europe. And, in the immediate aftermath, it was 57% USSR. In 1994, it was 25% USSR, 49% America. What happened between 1945 and 1994? The Cold War and a shit ton of, one, anti-Soviet propaganda, counter-revolutionary propaganda, but also what happened was the cultural imperialism of Hollywood that completely rewrote history. So that is the insidious part of that kind of coverage. Which is why I think, like, for example, Call of Duty, like the original Call of Duty 1, was so sick because, like, the first COD single-player campaign absolutely did an incredible fucking job of just straight up showing that the USSR forces were liberators, right? They did a fantastic fucking job. It was like one of the few pieces of like American-made art heavily fucking featured the Russian side. But yeah, history is complicated because fighting against the USSR at the time didn't necessarily make you a Nazi. Wrong. Just someone who had an excruciating choice over which of these two terror regimes to exist. There's nothing funnier than being a Ukrainian who sided with the Nazis when the Nazis openly said you were a dog and were killing your neighbors, and then they enlisted you to kill your neighbors. And I don't mean just like Polish people, okay, but your Jewish neighbors, for example. So there is no two sides to that fucking coin. As a matter of fact, it's the one aspect of history that is obviously so close to our contemporary history and our understanding of society that like there are still veterans, you know what I mean? Including the fucking Nazi that was, got a standing ovation in Canada. Why are Jewish and Holocaust remembrance groups letting stuff like this slip into the mainstream media now? No, fuck no, they're not. They 100% are fucking attacking these people. Are you kidding me? This is one aspect that like they absolutely are they 100% universally get mad over, which is understandable. What is the number of Ukrainians that fought in the Red Army? I mean, I think it's like, millions of people. The idea that like you will disrespect their sacrifice like this by propping up a fucking dude who literally decided to voluntarily join a group of people that were slaughtering his brethren, okay, his countrymen, and also literally jailed his fucking leaders. They didn't even give a shit. The Banderites targeted Ukrainians who openly opposed the fascist platform too, and they were jailed too. That's the other part. Like they considered you to be a dog, and you fucking volunteered with the people who thought you were a dog. You were worthless. They jailed your fucking leaders. The biggest L of all time, thinking like, oh, these guys are totally going to give us liberation. According to research during 1943 to 1945, about 4.5 million Ukrainians became Red Army soldiers. After June 1944, 33% of the Soviet Red Army consisted of Ukrainians. The losses of Ukrainian people during World War II account for 19 to 35% of total USSR losses. Unimaginable amounts of sacrifice. Millions of Ukrainians served in the Red Army, with thousands of generals and officers being Ukrainian. About 100,000 served as fascist collaborators, and this is who the West remembers exactly. If we're looking at it objectively from just a mathematical conundrum, it is quite literally harder to find fascist collaborators than those who served under the Red Army. And yet, the West still seems to take on that mountainous burden, that unimaginable task, and they still end up somehow finding the fucking Nazis to prop up. That is crazy to me. The USSR had a horrible track record against ethnic minorities. I do not get how you people can justify your commie boners. Fuck Nazis, of course, but goddamn. I don't know who you are talking to. You're shadowboxing with a made-up person. That is one of the major issues with the USSR, specifically as it pertains to something that you shouldn't ever do again. It is such an odd thing to come in here and then turn around and bring this up. Dude, you know what this is like? This is like when I talk about how fucking hoorah I am, thinking about American liberators, right? I'm like, hell yeah, brother. They fucking went in. Our boys went in there and they fucking busted Nazi skulls. And you're like, well, what about the invasion of Iraq? It's like, dog, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that at all. You know what my opinion is on that shit. So why don't you ever come in here and when I fucking go hoorah about killing Nazis on the American side, nobody ever turns around and goes, well, actually, Hasan, what about Vietnam? It's like, what are you, fucking stupid? That's not, am I talking about Vietnam? No, shut the fuck up. I'm talking about World War II. Suck my cock, okay? It's so fucking stupid, and it's so transparently propaganda that is nefarious, okay? That is precisely the reason why it only goes in one direction. Whenever you bring up USSR's victories in World War II, they go, the USSR was fucking, they were so bad, what the fuck are you talking about? But they never fucking talk about Americans when I'm talking about American victories in World War II. You want to know why? Because they're one-sided. That's why. They do not give a shit about the USSR or America's victories in World War II. They just give a shit about being anti-USSR. However, the idea of foreign volunteers and conscripts were being allocated to the Waffen SS rather than the Wehrmacht on administrative rather than ideological grounds is a hard sell for audiences to believe the SS's primary task was genocide. Whoa. This guy isn't just doing propaganda for this one specific Ukrainian. He's doing propaganda for the entire SS, which is pretty fire. That's sick. So the SS's primary task wasn't genocide, according to this guy. And simple narratives like everybody in the SS was guilty of war crimes are more pervasive because they're much simpler to grasp. That's awesome. That Politico wrote an article in Politico EU where this possibly is illegal, for the record. We moved on from the clean Wehrmacht theory to the clean SS theory. It's not just that, like, oh, the Wehrmacht, like, well, those guys, they were just following orders and they should not have actually, been put to the task. This motherfucker said, actually, the SS was good as well. Some people. Canada's enemies have thus latched on to the simple narratives alongside concerned citizens in Canada itself, with the misstep over Hunka being used by Russia and its backers. Like, the misstep over Hunka being used by Russia and its fucking backers, brother, he's a Nazi. And the Canadian Parliament propped him up. Your worldview has to be so distorted. We are now at a point where it's just like straight up. I'm so horny to be anti-USSR, anti-socialist, anti-communist that I'm actually handing it to the fucking Nazis moment. According to Russia's ambassador in Canada, Hunka's unit committed multiple war crimes, according to him, including mass murder against the Russian people, ethnic Russians, is a proven fact. But whenever a Russian official calls something a proven fact, it should set off alarms. Oh my God, he's literally just doing propaganda for the Waffen-SS Galicia division, which was heavily, this kind of stuff, you're at this point, you're literally just doing straight up Holocaust denial. This article is doing Holocaust denial. Repeated exhaustive investigations, including by not only the Nuremberg trials, but also the British, Canadian, and even Soviet authorities, led to the conclusion that no war crimes or atrocities had been committed by this particular unit. That's false. No, that is literally false. What the fuck? They at least killed 100 Jews, if I'm not mistaken. I remember seeing that. Anti-partisan actions with Kampfgruppe Beiersdorf, 100 Jews, and then and a fuck ton of Polish people. The judgment in Nuremberg against major war criminals found that all persons who had been officially accepted as members of the SS after 1st September 1939 were declared criminal according to Article 6 of the Charter, with the exception of those who were drafted into membership by the state and did not commit crimes. Members of the 14th Waffen Grenadier Division of the SS were volunteers and members of the SS. They were also found guilty of the war crimes by the head of the Commission for Prosecution of Crimes Against the Polish Nation and the Institute of History at the Ukrainian Academy of Scientists. No individual among the enlisted men of the 14th have yet been prosecuted or individually for any war crimes. By the end of the war, most of the officers of the 14th were either killed or missing. Yeah, anti-partisan actions equals war crimes, whether they would massacre entire villages under the guise of anti-partisan activity. So Hunka could still be processed? Yes. Poland, as a matter of fact, has asked to extradite Hunka to Poland to be tried for his Nazi war crimes, which would be fucking fire. They should do that. If Canada wants to make right for their obvious wrongs in this regard, they should start extraditing all of the Ukrainian Nazis to Poland and have them be tried, because that is what is just. But this is just the latest twist in a long time running campaign. Yeah, this is actually Russian propaganda. Brother, you're doing Nazi Germany propaganda while talking about Russian propaganda. Did the Russian government immediately take advantage of this? Yes, they did. Why do you hand a dub to the Russians in this regard? And why, instead of re-examining how horny you were to be so anti-Russian that you're doing Nazi propaganda, that you're still running along with a narrative that further solidifies your perspective as like someone who's a Nazi defender and a Holocaust revisionist, instead of just going, yeah, we fucked up, we should extradite this guy. Yes, it's not just enemies of democracy that are subscribing to the seductively simple. Jewish advocacy groups in Canada have been understandably loud in their condemnation. But here, too, accusations risk being influenced by misconception. Bro, I'm sorry. This is literally the same fucking energy as Ben Shapiro defending Ann Coulter for anti-Semitism because she defends Israel, right? She's an ally to Israel, so it's fine if she's anti-Semitic. I don't care. That's what Ben Shapiro has said in the past, right? But in this circumstance, it's even worse because you're literally defending a Nazi, like an actual fucking Nazi, and whitewashing his participation in war crimes because he's anti-USSR. Like, you're so horny against a non-existing state, and you're so angry about like communism and socialism in general that you are quite literally defending Nazis one step further than like Ben Shapiro defending Ann Coulter saying anti-Semitic shit. It is really fucking insane that we live now in a time and place where people not on Stormfront, not on 4chan, but instead straight up on fucking Politico are whitewashing, not even doing the clean Wehrmacht theory, but whitewashing SS. war criminals. Like, this guy's basically saying, oh, these Jews are duped into getting angry about a fucking Nazi SS war criminal. Just suck it the fuck up, you know what I mean? The Friends of Simon Wiesenthal Center registered his outrage, noting that Junker's unit's crimes against humanity during the Holocaust are well documented, a statement that doesn't seem to have any more substance than the accusation by Russia. The result of all of this is that otherwise intelligent people are now trying to outdo each other in the course of evidence-free condemnation. Yeah, this guy's doing like the Russell Brand defender style defense. But for a Nazi. He's like, oh man, there's no evidence here. Oh, this is cancel culture. I can't believe they're doing cancel culture. There's no evidence that this fucking Nazi who volunteered for the Waffen-SS actually did any Waffen-SS type Nazi crimes, even though technically he is, a Nazi. Pretty sure this article is illegal in Germany and Austria. Yeah, 100%. Hunke is now so old that he thought it was a good idea not to hide in Canada, but to receive a standing ovation on a national stage. No, my friend, it's not that he was old. It's that is the level of comfort that people who aligned with the Nazis have in a place like Canada, in the Western world in general. But specifically, the Ukrainian Canadian diaspora and the anti-USSR Nazis that exist in it have always been very horny to just like whitewash their atrocities. That's why we covered the ridiculous hate crimes where a Nazi statue was defaced in Canada and the police opened a fucking hate crime investigation to the guys who defaced it. It is not. Whitewashing of the SS is legal in Germany. Wait, what? To achieve these aims, the organization used contracts with political parties. In the years following World War II, the Allied occupational authorities in Germany implemented policies which included demilitarization, denazification, democratization, and decentralization. The Allies' attempts were often perceived by the occupied population as victors' justice and met with limited success. Is this the Daughters of the Confederacy, but for the Waffen-SS? Is that what's going on? The Mutual Aid Association of former Waffen-SS members was a lobby group and a denialist veterans organization founded by former high-ranking Waffen-SS personnel in West Germany in 1951. Its main objective was to achieve legal, economic, and historical rehabilitation of the Waffen-SS. Oh my God, dude. God, I fucking hate reactionary pieces of shit so goddamn much. The Ukrainian Canadian diaspora was very left-wing until these Nazi fucks got imported in. They turned what used to be a burgeoning and active trade unionist and socialist community into little Hitlerites too. Ukrainian Canadian political science professor Ivan Kachanovsky stated that the supporters of the SS Galicia Division in Canada, where many of the members immigrated after the Second World War, attempted to portray it as a patriotic military formation, despite its collaboration with the Third Reich and its responsibility in the mass killing of Jews, Ukrainians, and Poles. Liberals get up and say, are there civil liberties for the fascists? Are they going to have newspapers and radio? The passion and concern they feel for the fascists who were destroying and murdering people the day before. Liberals will get up and say, are there civil liberties for the fascists? Michael Parenti.